It's not something that we can wait for. We are like on the brink of being an unincorporated city.
Yes.
And we absolutely need you to like work with our new mayor who is trying to do something, but he's being blocked at all fronts from the city council. No one is concerned about it because maybe they're the ones who are also still out of their pockets.
Yes.
We just had $25 million come up missing, and nobody's trying to make sure that that money comes back to the city. So if more of a statement than a question, but we absolutely need your help, and we need it like direly, we need it like very fast.
Absolutely. I was had a long discussion with the mayor here right before our meeting, and he was talking about some of his vision for what California City could be, and we are going to work together to try and execute that. And I'll tell you, I walked around the park. We got here a little early, and I walked around the park, and on the one hand, it's a beautiful park, but on the other hand, you can see the park it used to be, and it's a little heartbreaking. You know, the beautiful arch bridge that's all decaying. I walked up the hill to the top where the waterworks for the waterfall used to be, to see all that concrete falling apart, and it's heartbreaking. And the facilities like this are the lifeblood of our community. If we don't give our young people things to do, they're going to find things to do that we like best. Right? And so we need to give people the tools and resources that it takes to be a community.
Yes.
So I will certainly work with the mayor on that. The current fiscal year, I was able to secure $1 million to help with the water rehabilitation project that you've got going here. And what I was talking to the mayor and the council about before this meeting was I'll be coming to them in the next month or two, asking them for their funding priorities for the following year. And we're going to work to link them up with federal sources of money to be able to get the resources here that you need.
I'm Karen Macedonia, elected director for Eastern Healthcare. I have been talking to our mayor. We're trying to find ways to work together. Our organization just got a baby community health assessment. Our veteran population in Cal City is twice the state average. In Ridgecrest, it's 3 times the state average. We are working on an annexation so that we will go to the 17 county line, we're multi-county, so we have some 17 and Inyo County. But we need to all come together. We'll be on the 2025 Community Health Needs Assessment. But in my mind, from where I'm looking at, you can't have healthcare, no access without economic growth and economic development related to it. So as you talk to Marcus, we're talking to each other. We all want to move together as a community, helping all of us become more.
Right. Yeah, and thank you for the work that you're doing serving our veterans. One of the problems that I'm very aware of is that California City is a healthcare desert for veterans. And one of the things I'm working on is to try to get a new VA clinic out here in California City. And so we've got a company that we're working with that is in the accreditation process. And I think they're about 3 months in, so it might be another 6 months before they get to it. But if we're successful, we'll see an opening of a clinic here in California City, which is going to be much better than forcing our vets to drive, scores of miles to get to the healthcare they need.
It is so important because as good as Lillian is, as whatever, to drive to Sepulveda or to Loma Linda for healthcare, and so much of our stuff goes to LA County, it needs to stay in Kirk County. We desperately need a conversation of what can we do from this point going forward.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for bringing it up, and we'll certainly keep working on it. Let me know what else I can do. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you are familiar with the 5G technology. They are illegal in many European countries. There is a lot of research and so many information is very unhealthy for the people. And the 3 antennas are inside next to the police department, and they are very close on the area of the city. All the city people work next to the antennas. I wonder if anybody is talking about that, because we need the police to be healthy and the people from the city in order to have a good city with healthy people. Then I think it's very important to see that, and most people have no clue what is 5G and antennas, but it's a lot of information that proves they are very dangerous for the health. And another thing, since I'm talking, I don't know if most people don't know, but they are dropping chemtrails.
Yes.
And this is poison, but it's not here, it's everywhere. But I see all the time, around this time, I mean, they fumigate like crazy. I wonder if anybody talking, because all this is censorship by the government. And I think it's a little more open, but I think it's very, very important because if we don't have our health, it doesn't matter. We're gonna be dead, we don't need it.
Right.
Anyway, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up. So, this is something I know a little bit about, and I've looked into both of those issues. On the first issue with the 5G antennas, I have a technology background. I'm a computer engineer. And I served when I served in the California legislature. I served on the Utilities and Commerce Committee that had jurisdiction over 5G when it was first introduced. And I currently sit on the Communications Subcommittee of Energy and Commerce, which has jurisdiction over all of the wireless carriers in the country from the federal level. So it's something I know a bunch about. And I know a lot of people that have expressed concerns about this, but I have done extensive research myself. I've talked to all the experts. I am not convinced that 5G antennas create harmful health effects. I know that there are people concerned about it, but I've spent a lot of times in hearings talking to experts, and I have not found evidence of that.
I can provide you, many countries, Europeans, they make it illegal. It's piles of information, and the problem is, all the police officers, they are working under that.
Yeah, I realize, yeah.
I respect your opinion, but I think they have to have a very serious debate.
Sure.
Because it's.
Yeah, I'll tell you one
something to
thing.
debate.
I'll tell you one thing that everyone agrees on is that 4G was actually much more hazardous technology from that point of view because the power of the antennas was much higher. 5G is designed at much higher frequency, but the result of that is that they have much less range, and so you need a bunch of antennas. So you can be standing a lot closer to a 5G antenna than 4G. Anyway, but I'm going to give you a card on the way out. If you have information, please send it to me. I'd love to
This is
see
for
it.
debate, but I don't think, I respect your opinion, but it's a lot of information that go exactly the opposite. This is a military weapon, 5G, for me. They use in demonstration, where people do demonstration, the repression is through 5G. It's a lot of information. The only thing nice, in the past was censored, then it would be nice to be open. People are very smart, people should know what's going on.
Okay, well, let's continue that conversation. Sure.
The police officer, they are working under this. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm Ralph Cantrell. I've spent over 30 years on active duty and 14 years with either the Department of Defense or the Department of the Air Force. You mentioned that you've had a nuclear engineering background?
A computer engineer.
Computer engineering background. Well, I understand that's good, because what I'm about to say, I know that you're going to find some truth in that. I'm really concerned about the indiscriminate cuts that are being made in the federal government. There are a lot of agencies, the NRO agency, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, nuclear security agencies, most of which I've worked for. And to let people go without an individual check exactly what they do in here is going to potentially put the nation in jeopardy. It takes a long time to get into these agencies, as you well know. It takes a long time to be vetted with the security clearance that you need to work in these. And I think that I've read in a number of newspapers that some folks within the executive department have said that, oh my gosh, maybe we had a mistake. Maybe we should start hiring some of these people back. The FAA, as an example, has let go a number of people in the standardization department. The secretary of the newly appointed head of the FAA said, well, we're hiring controllers. That's his line. But he is absolutely not familiar enough with his new organization to know exactly what they do. There are some of these agencies that nobody's heard of. NRO being one, worked at Quantum. You're making cuts out there, Enros the same way. And the elements at Hanscom. My goodness, it takes years to build engineers and scientists in these little niche places. It's not an these organizations are not such that you can just say, I'm going to take 8%, or I'm going to take 20% of your budget and let the directors figure it out. I think that, I know you're a congressman, and these are decisions that are being made in the White House, but if somebody like yourself is not keeping up with what these implications are, you know, I think we're in trouble. You know, potential, sorry.
He really wants to talk to you.
Well, it's my family, they always want to talk to me. Forgive me. I think I put it in silent mode. I hope that your office is concerned enough to take a look at these ones that are responsible for nuclear services, and to make sure that the cuts aren't being made to these organizations. I've read that we're looking at an 8% cut in the defense. I don't know, in all the years that I stood up against the Russians, whom
Can you help me?
yes, are now Russians, I'm not sure.
Up or down?
We,
Down.
well, that's my opinion, I don't think so either, but some do. I just didn't think that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, for the most part, are supportive of this. You know, you can't be strong in the world without a strong military. Thank you. I know I threw a lot at you all at once, but I understand that you understand how these things work.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I completely agree with you. And, you know, on the one hand, I think everyone would recognize that when we're running a $2 trillion deficit, we need to do things to get our deficit under control. But some of these layoffs and these indiscriminate firings have had real negative consequences. And I'll give you a specific example that we have been pushing back on, and very recently successfully, has been the national park system. Because, you know, when you talk about probationary employees, you talk about seasonal employees, which are the workforces that have gotten the brunt of these cuts, the national park system relies on those people to do the direct contact with people visiting the national park. So we just recently had a problem with Joshua Tree National Park. In fact, I was over there this morning, and where they were going to have a real problem servicing the people that visit the park this year if these cuts were allowed to stand. And so we, in conjunction with some other concerned members of Congress, have pushed back against that and gotten the Trump administration to realize the impact that these cuts would have. And I'm really happy that just yesterday they announced they were going to rehire all of those people and plus up that workforce and make sure that that need gets met. So we're going to continue to monitor that and make sure that those cuts are not indiscriminate. But I mean, let's talk about the fact that this is going to be stressful for everyone. We have been through this before. The last time our federal budget was imbalanced was actually under a Democratic president. And President Clinton was elected. He pledged to do that, and in his first week in office, he issued an executive order said, we're going to immediately cut 4% of the federal workforce. And he did it. Over the next 4 years, they laid off over 200,000 federal workers. That was a little bit more of a deliberate process. And so we think we need to be very careful when we're doing this. And I'm supportive of the president's effort to get the budget in balance, but we need to do it cautiously and carefully. I completely agree. Oh, and you know, the Department of Defense, let me talk about that. So the DOD is brand new. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE we call it, is just now looking at the DOD. I'll tell you, it is our intention in Congress not to cut the DOD, but to plus it. Because in recent years, it has decayed. Correct. As a portion of federal spending. So the budget that we just passed, we passed a budget resolution out of the House Budget Committee on which I sit last Thursday, and that included a plus up for the DOD. So we're going to continue to fight for that. So ma'am, I know you had a hand up. You still have a question, or we'll go over yes, sir. Yeah, we'll
My question is kind of connected to his question, exactly how tight
exactly are you and your colleagues hands tied as far as dealing with all of the garbage that's coming out of the White House with the president and Elon Musk?
Sure. I have gotten so many questions on this. This is my 7th town hall that I've done this week so far. And we've gotten lots of questions on this. Well, I don't know if it's an answer that will satisfy you, but I'll tell you the truth, right? So we have a system of checks and balances in this country. And we have been through this before, where we've had sometimes one branch or the other will try to test the constitutional limits of how much authority that they have. And we have a court system to deal with this. So when we have a dispute between the legislative and the executive branches, the courts weigh in and they say, we're a nation based on the rule of written law. The ultimate law is the Constitution. Established law follows that. And they'll test this actions of Congress and the executive branch against the laws that we have established. And that's exactly what is happening now. So just in the last couple of days, for example, you've seen the courts sometimes come in and say, we're going to put a stop to what the executive branch is doing, which is what they did 2 days ago with the NIH, with the rescinding of all the NIH grants. Sometimes the courts will say, we're going to allow this to continue, but we're going to put guardrails around it, which is what they're doing with what DOJ's access to Social Security. They're saying, or I'm sorry, the IRS, they're saying that there can be no access to taxpayer level data or tax returns or Social Security numbers in the IRS. So they're allowing it to continue, but they're saying the law says we have privacy regulations, we're going to put guardrails. And there are some cases like the rescinding of USAID funding, where the courts have said, the president as the plenary head of the executive branch has the authority to do that. So the system is working as intended in that respect. And again, we have been here before. We have had presidents that tried to test the limits of their constitutional power. And the last one we had was Barack Obama, who was frustrated when he came into office that he couldn't get done what he wanted to get done, and he said, you know what, I'm just going to do it via executive order. And when he was challenged on it, his exact words were, so soon. And people did. And exactly the same process was followed. Sometimes the court said, you can do that, you have the authority to do it, and sometimes the court says you can't, and we're going to put a stay on it. So I would say that the system continues to work as the founding fathers intended it to.
However, I just have a little follow-up. However, the previous president who used executive orders to get things pushed through didn't have Project 2025 in their back pockets. Right.
This is a think tank, right? And any think tank can create a document.
Then why is 60% of it already implemented?
So I don't see Project 2025 controlling anything to the extent that the president doesn't have the authority to say, okay, that's a good idea, that's not a good idea. All right, so I saw a hand up over here. Yes, sir.
I want to expand and narrow the focus on what Ralph was talking about, DOD cuts, and Edward specifically. Having worked out there for 25 years, the last 4 of my Air Force career, 20 years, another 21 years as an assistant engineer. Now, I understand fully endorse getting rid of deadwood. You gotta get rid of deadwood, because there is out there, but there is a wealth of incredibly qualified people in Edwards. My son is one of them. He's a program manager on a highly classified program. I don't know what they and he's had 15 years and he's shaking in his boots. And I'm going like, oh, don't worry, you should be okay. But on the other hand, he's also what I call other duty is he's a shepherd of the new engineers that they bring in, the new hires. Well, all those probationary engineers are on the bubble right now, and they are scared to death what's going to happen. And what I don't want to see happen is what happened in the early 90s out there at Edwards, where there was no engineering hierarchy and development of younger engineers to move up eventually and fill positions. Now, Edwards corrected that in the late 90s and early 20s. Now, if you go into a very vicious cycle of getting rid of probationary people, you're literally going to have a generation gap in the engineering community. That is my concern.
I completely share your concern. And those of us that represent military bases in our district, and there are quite a few of us in Congress, have gotten together to make sure that the administration knows how important those programs and those personnel are, and to make sure they don't get swept up into the rest of what's going on in government. And we're going to continue to fight for that. And Edwards in particular, because it has such an importance to our national security. In fact, John, I probably should have mentioned, you know, the North Gate to Ed Bruce, that's a mess. And so we got them, this fiscal year, was it $2 million? $2 million to do that new interchange up there. As soon as Congress gets its act in order and gets through the appropriations process this year, and assuming we don't shut down the federal government on March 14th, which I'm fighting to make sure we don't, we're going to get that money on where it needs to go.
Does that include the direct path from coming here to that interchange?
Who knows the answer to that?
I do not think it includes that.
I was told yesterday that 140 was approved. Yeah, I don't know, I heard
Well, that's fine, that's not my project, that's a project that the base came to me and said, please help us settle this, and I said, how much do you need? They said $2 million, and I said, I'll get it for you. All right, yes, ma'am, we're going to answer this.
Sit down.
Because if you're fighting these things, we don't know them. So if you're standing there saying it's a bad idea, you need to stop this, we don't hear you say this. We need to.
So, excellent question. I'm glad you raised it. We've talked about a number of the occasions where these cuts could do real damage, and so we are pushing back to make sure that that doesn't get done. The VA is one of those occasions. We were concerned because when DOGE started going through the VA and people started to get laid off, we thought, wow, you better not do anything that actually affects that agency's ability to deliver health care to our vets. And the administration heard us loud and clear, and the Secretary of the VA actually said less than a week ago that none of the people that have been cut are in roles that directly touch veterans' health care. So we're going to hold them to that commitment. Now, having said that, let me make it very clear that something needs to be done here. And so the President, his methods are unconventional, but what we have been doing is not working. When we have a budget deficit of almost 30% of all federal spending and this legacy of debt that we're threatening to hand down to our children and our grandchildren. So if what we were doing, the path we were on was sustainable and what we were doing was working, I might be with you in saying we shouldn't allow DOGE to go through all these records and to try and make these cuts, but we really have no choice. Nothing that we're doing so far is working, and so if this is the path, you know, well, one of the things I had a constituent say, give me a pretty apt simile, I think it was last night, it seems like a week ago, but what they said was, if I have cancer, I would rather have a doctor that can cure me, even though he has a terrible bedside manner, than a doctor with a great bedside manner that's not doing me any good. And so, you know, President Trump, you know, his bedside manner might need some work, but if he can do us some good, I'm all for it.
This is not an ad point. Hey, this is a process that.
I just said I agree with you.
Let's.
I wish it was more deliberate, right? But that is not, I'm not the President of the United States, which is probably why I'm not the President of the United States.
But there are our processes in place, they could follow it appropriately.
Sure. And you know what?
Find their ways, and find their efficiencies, and not fire people at midnight on an email.
You just gotta look at
We
the.
were talking a couple minutes ago about the courts, and the courts, we have federal law on these issues as well, and the courts have been energized. So,
Permission to do what he wants. He took that immunity thing as a carte blanche to say, whatever I do in the context of my official acts, I'm fine, I can do whatever I want. And he's approving it.
so So just yesterday, the courts ruled against the administration in some of the layoffs that they are doing. So we have federal law on that too, and the administration is being challenged on that too, to make sure that what they are doing is lawful.
And what's the number of lawsuits against the administration?
I have not been given,
I think there's 70.
wouldn't surprise me, I think it's probably higher than that. Yes, ma'am, Madam.
Yeah, you keep saying that we have a deficit, but, and you keep saying that SSI is an entitlement program. If it's an entitlement program, why is it taken out of my check?
So I never call SSI an entitlement program because I view it as social insurance.
It was a program started under FDR under the New Deal. And if you really want to do anything about the deficit, maybe instead of giving rich people tax cuts, you might want to start taxing them at 91% like FDR did. Because under FDR, we had 91% taxes on the rich. And that's why we had bridges and we had school stuff and we had everything. But you know what? You guys decided that the trickle-down economics is going to help us. All we're getting trickled on is by piss.
Right.
We're getting pissed on out here. You guys are taking food stamps, you're taking WIC, you're taking everything, but you want us to have kids and you want us to freaking be what? Married and in the kitchen barefooted?
Take away women's rights.
Take away our rights, our freaking freedoms, our everything. This is supposed to, and saying that women can't be in the army and trans people can't be in the army. It only has to be white men in the army.
Right. But they care about kids.
But they care about kids. But you won't. But you don't want to. You don't want to give free food for kids. You don't want to give them free lunch. You don't want to give them free breakfast. Head Start.
Kids or grandkids. Remember when you got that check about the 15th of the month for the kids? The Republicans took that away from you. Yeah.
He voted against the $350 tax credit for gas. He voted against the freaking tax credit for us. And so did J.D. Vance. He wasn't even there for the vote. He said he was. He wasn't even there.
Right, we know they don't work for us.
They don't work for us. They work for Elon Musk.
Supposed to be able to vote.
Right, but they care about kids, but they're taking away free lunches. They care about kids,
food
but they
stamps.
have benefits.
Okay, respond.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about Social Security. I don't think Social Security is an entitlement. It is a social insurance program, and it is a trust fund program. So everything that you read about cuts can't touch Social Security.
They've already touched it. You guys have already borrowed against it. That's why you want to get into it. That's why you want to get into it.
Social Security is structurally insolvent because the revenue.
You guys keep saying, then why does Mitch McConnell and everybody keep saying that it's an entitlement program? Your house guy, Johnson, keeps saying it's an entitlement program. Your boss says it's an entitlement program. Elon Musk says it's an entitlement program. Trump says it's an entitlement program. Why don't you start with a bill that starts taxing the rich people? You guys don't need a tax break.
Right.
You don't need a tax break. Elon Musk doesn't need a tax break.
4 days.
I bet you people 4 days. Do you know 4 days?
That's ridiculous.
How you doing? Appreciate you coming out and talking to the community. Recently, I read an article in a publication affiliated with Hillsdale College, and it was talking about it's highly unfortunate, but that the average American citizen is very uninformed about the Constitution and Bill of Rights and certain degrees of civics in the United States. So I'm curious, you within Congress, are you aware of any talks going on, or whether or not it's possible you as a congressman can do something to begin to address that, to help increase citizen awareness about what the function of the government is supposed to be here in the United States? The Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, even get into certain rights like by Thomas Paine, common sense. So some type of program to help maybe address some of the political polarization that's taking place these days is oftentimes, So do you think something can be done about that?
I think it could, and I think more people ought to read your shirt.
Okay, right, yeah.
But, it is true that our young people have demonstrated a lack of awareness of the principles that our country was founded on. And if you go back and you read not only the Constitution, but all of the argument and the debate that went around its drafting, it's crystal clear that our founding fathers believed in the principles of limited government, and they believed in freedom and liberty, which is what they were lacking when they were under the control of England, were the principles that led to the greatest happiness and prosperity for our people. And we've gotten a long ways away from there. But because I believe that, I also don't believe that the federal government ought to be pointing at the schools and saying, here, you should teach this, you can't teach this, you must teach this way, you have to use this curriculum. Right? I think that our education system is best when it is controlled locally. And I want to empower our local school boards to make those decisions. So I think too much direction comes from the federal government, and I think too much mandates and direction comes from the state government when it comes to education. And I wish we could empower our local school districts to make those decisions. And on the other thing that you mentioned, on civility, I completely agree with you there too. Because I fear we have lost the ability to have a civil discussion with each other. We've lost the ability to disagree agreeably. I think sometimes we get all wrapped up in it. Let's be honest, politics has become the daytime soap opera now of our century, right? But you've got these political parties, and mine included, right? Both political parties have gotten really good at weaponizing the tools of outrage and hatred and anger to stir up people against each other. And sometimes we forget that we don't play for Team Republican or Team Democrat, we don't play for Team Conservative or Team Liberal, we all play for the same team, which is Team United States of America. And we're going to have disagreements, like families have disagreements, but we need to learn, again, how to sit down and have a civil discussion with each other about that. And if we can do that, I believe this is the greatest country on earth. But we need to be able to solve that problem to keep it the greatest country on earth. Okay, so I've got a couple of frequent flyers here. Anyone else that has to ask a question? Yes, ma'am.
I have written you no less than 5 letters, and since Trump took office, I have called you practically every day, and I have failed as yet to have any sort of acknowledgement from your office as to my efforts. I understand that we will disagree fundamentally, but I need to know that my voice is actually being heard. Right. So you talk about.
So, I'm going to certainly answer your question, but do I have a little information? When the first time you contacted my office, was that after
Last
Mr.
year,
Trump?
actually, it was regarding local issues.
Okay. How did you contact my office?
I wrote letters, and I've written
Okay.
5 of them, and I have copies of them.
I believe you. I'm not saying you didn't. And where did you send them?
To Washington.
Okay. And you never got any response?
Not even an acknowledgement
Okay.
whatsoever.
Well, I'm going to have my staff talk to you right after the meeting here, because if somehow your letters fell through the cracks, it's a problem that we need to get fixed. I made a commitment. I'm not saying you didn't. Letters are better because phone calls, if you leave your contact information, we'll get back to you. But the letters are better because we have it right there. So I made a commitment. When I was first elected to legislative office 11 years ago, I made a commitment that I would answer every single constituent communication, and I do my level best to do that. When people, it's a little more challenging in Congress because we get, in fact, I just got the communique from this last week. Last week, we got 2,400 letters from constituents, but I made a commitment to answer every single one of them. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time, because when something goes out in my voice, I want to make sure I approve it. So even though my staff will draft responses, sometimes they'll link it up to a letter that I've already approved to send and get you that response. But sometimes it takes a response, but I don't think we ever take more than a month.
But do you understand we already feel a little bit like a stepchild out here because we were gerrymandered? We are Kern County, and yet you are San Bernardino County representing us, and that doesn't make any sense. Because really, when you're going to Washington, you're not representing our county. We felt like a stepchild under McCarthy. We feel more like a stepchild under you. So when we're not returning phone calls or acknowledging that you're getting our correspondence, it's very frustrating.
Absolutely, and I don't blame you for being frustrated. I certainly will not defend the actions of the California Redistricting Commission. I went from representing most of the landmass in San Bernardino County. Now I have some in Kern, and I have some of Los Angeles County, and I have some in San Bernardino County. Why that made sense to them, I don't know, but I didn't make those rules. But now it's my job to represent you. And if you're feeling unrepresented, it's my job to fix it. You've got my commitment that I will. So I will have my staff talk to you, try and figure out why it didn't get responded to, and make sure we plug that up so it does not happen in the future. Yes, sir, right there.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on what she said, because you don't represent California City all the way, right? Because I was gonna ask you, like, I've been seeing properties getting built, houses being built, but they say we have a budget, we can't fix streets, lights, anything of that nature. So usually when people are bringing up more houses and stuff, it brings more people to come, but we don't have businesses. So what are we going to do? Get in trouble? The crime rate is going to go up. You can't even see or drive to get to your house that they just built because the roads are messed up. You can't see in the dark or anything. But yeah, no street lights at all. So, but I don't know if you know what's going on with our budget. But I was going to say, where do you stand in regards to like rich people getting tax cuts and everything like that? What is your opinion?
Okay, so two things to unpack there. To answer your first question, I represent California City in the U.S. House of Representatives. Right, so I'm your representative in Congress. I do not represent you at the state level. I'm not your state assemblyman. I'm not your state senator. I don't represent you at the county level. I'm not your county commissioner. I don't represent you at the local level. I'm not your mayor, and I'm not your city council people. So a lot of the issues that you've raised about roads, streets, lights, things like that, building permits, those are city issues or county issues. I know those issues very well because I served in local government. I was on city council. I was a mayor before I was elected to the state legislature. But that's not my gig anymore. Right? But we can always, we'll have this talk before we close here. I'm always happy to help you connect to the people that can answer those questions. So your question was about tax cuts for the rich. Okay, so I assume you're talking about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was passed in 2017 when President Trump was president the first time. Those tax cuts expire at the end of this year. And so there is debate about whether or not they ought to be renewed. If we do not renew them, it will be the largest tax increase in the history of our country.
For the rich?
No, for everybody.
For the rich?
Let's be respectful. Over 65% of American families will see their taxes go up if we fail to reauthorize TCJ.
Then fix it.
The average family of four will see their taxes go up by over $1,700 a year. Okay, so we are working through how to reauthorize it in a way that's fair. Okay, and I see a lot of people like our vigorous
FDR
who say that the rich aren't paying their fair share.
They're not, dude. Jeff Bezos got a freaking tax return, bro.
Last year, the top
Dude, Trump paid zero in taxes.
These people want to have a discussion. They want to hear your stuff. Okay? Last year,
what, gaslighting?
1% of taxpayers paid almost half of all federal taxes in this country. So the rich, we can argue about whether or not they're paying their fair share, whatever that is. But they're paying an awful lot.
No, they're not.
I just gave you the statistic, man. Okay, so we can argue. And I've got colleagues.
91% under FDR.
Who think that government ought to be a tool for redistribution of wealth. And I don't think that's what our founding fathers intended. The purpose of government and the purpose of taxes is to provide the things that we all need and we all share to be able to thrive as a society. Things like roads and schools, things like an active military, things like law enforcement.
No kings, no oligarchs.
And that's what I think taxes are for. I don't think taxes are to take involuntarily from some people and give to other people.
They take it from us and give it to them. You're robbing the poor.
And we're going to continue to have this debate, but I'm very happy that you brought it. Yes, sir.
My question is pertaining to the budget. I mean, how they say the economy is always lacking money. When America is one of the number one superpowers in the world, they press everybody. Then you can take $1 trillion and give it away and give it away to a foreign war, but yet you want us to pay for it. But we can't get no money back. We can't get no services. Everything that's being given to Americans is being took back. It seems like our government is Indian givers. They want to give you something that's baked and they want to take it back. Donald Trump, he said, I say, me myself speaking about him, I don't really know the man, and his actions is blunt and brazen. and it puts a lot of people on their pedestal, if you know what I mean. They lead toward a world revolution, what he's trying to create. He's trying to hunger people and make them hungry enough to come out to fight back for their rights. The government is supposed to take care of the people, because the people elected them to do that job. So what you telling us, empty dreams, hopes, and promises that ain't never gonna materialize. My kids grew up, they growing up in America. I'm scared, bro. You know, not so much for me, because if I think I don't understand the fact of mine, seeing like they separated people, seeing like they separated the rich from the poor and lower class, the ones that they standing up on their backs to do all the things they done did thus far. They lifting up the middle class, but they leaving those people out. I ain't heard one politician talk about the lower class people being lifted up first before they get lifted up last.
We never get lifted.
We talking to politicians about, we hear your spiel, we listen to your campaign, we hear the facts that you go out here, it's like a fisherman on the dock of the bay, throwing his buoy out on catch me some fish today. Even if I don't use no bait, just that lure in the water was going to draw substance to it. So y'all drawing a lot of substance in, but ain't giving no substances out. And all the ones you give out, chop them off right here, you cut a little piece off over here, and you put a lot back over here. So what do y'all want us to do, man? That's all politicians got to do is step up and tell the truth. We don't give a fuck about y'all. We just care about conquering the world. When it comes back to our people in America, y'all can pay for all of these world wars that's going on, all of the famine that's going on. We gonna take it. Not like this. We gonna get stuff. That's what we want to see. You want to realize you're working on all these legislations. This man been in the military. This man been in the military. This man been in the military. You probably can't even go into a doctor and get no pills in that. Or suffering that you're going through. My daddy just died. He was a veteran in the Navy. They did not give him the things he needed. He laid in the bed and died, and then they buried him. So what that's telling me, should I stand up and fight for a country that don't care about me, and the color of my skin, or the color of the Hispanic skin, or the Asians, or the Japanese, or even their own white skins? They care about money. That's what they want, money. Because if you was doing your job for the wellness and good of the people wouldn't be going through this. Because any other country, Canada for one, they take care of the citizens of their country. Why you don't take care of the citizens of your country that put money into the economy, that you take willfully, sitting up doing your strategy and pushing pounds on other countries to put them in compromise to get their resources. That sounds like a resource struggle to me. Who's gonna have the power in the end? It won't be me. It won't be me. So God is gonna intervene. So if they ain't doing the good, by the good, for the good, other people in this country, they need to get off their seat. They need to let somebody else that grew up in that culture of understanding and not having and having and having not. The Lord goes to bless those that struggle. Because if you got money, you ain't worried about them not having no money. You worried about how much more money you can get in your pocket. Can I get that boat? Can I get that camera? Can I go on this trip? While people sitting over here can't even get a bag lunch. So talk to them politics to me when you want to talk politics. Let's talk people politics, not government politics.
I have one other question.
Everybody, the same people in here that can get you off of that stand up there that you're sitting on. And we called Ray Davis and put on the smoke in there. You know why they did? Because Ray Davis wouldn't kill Big Judge. But Arnold did. He let him pass that red pro law to kill him. He had already been on death row 20 years. I think he served his time. He didn't really did what y'all created in our society, in our neighborhoods to be done. You know, the government is doing that. You wonder why we got gangs on the street? Look at the government. That's who you look at. They could have all been police officers. But by racial discrimination, they was black women even being in the cast. Like Donald Trump just took all the black people. So what you want me to do? Board my house up and bear down? Like Malcolm X looking out the window by any and all means necessary? That's what it's gonna come to. On the bill of check, so it's in way so shall it be done. So if you a liar and a backbiter and an evil sayer and a doom-dirt, you're gonna get judged. Because judgment is gonna come for all of us. And if you got any type of constitutional morals in your heart, you're gonna understand that the people, you have to take care of your people so your people will take care of you. Because the same method that they use to raise you up, they have already shown they'll throw your ass in the fire with the rest of them.
I know our president pretty well, and he completely agrees with you.
Oh, he doesn't.
And he was talking a lot about America first, and that's what he means. He's talking exactly about what you're talking about.
Rich America.
About money going
America
overseas,
first
money
is a
going
Ku
forward,
Klux Klan
and
freaking slogan, bro. America first is a Ku Klux Klan slogan.
You talk, I talk, you talk, I
I
talk.
can't hear him say he said now anything outside of this country that will be beneficial to America.
What does black
And
history
that is what he's doing. And you know what? You know what else he agrees with? Something you talked about veterans. We were having a discussion a few minutes ago.
What, that the
about all
suckers
the
are
different things
losers?
we're trying to do to make sure we honor our commitment to our veterans, because we need to fight for the people that fought for us, and he's helping us do that. So we're gonna keep working on that. We might not agree on everything, right? But we're gonna keep working.
Then why did he sign an executive order hiring drug prices on his first day?
If I get everyone's attention, we'll talk one more thing. Okay, because, so I appreciate the discussion we've been having. I want to keep having this discussion. But for everyone in this room, I want you to know the person that's elected to be the voice in your corner when you have a dispute with your government is me. Okay? We might agree on things, we might not agree on things, but this is a part of my job that I take extremely seriously. And so if you take one thing away from our time together this afternoon, if you would please grab one of my business cards on the way out, when you get home, throw it in a drawer, and in a month from now, a year from now, or 10 years from now, when you have a problem with government, remember that we had this talk, remember it's my job to fight for you. And call me and let me go to work. We can fix any problem that you're having with federal government. Let me give you an example of the things that I'm talking about. If you're a veteran, or if you know a veteran who's having problems getting the benefits they deserve, having problems with the VA, we specialize in those cases. I have people in my district office that will go to fight for them. If you have a problem with Social Security, we will get that problem fixed. I had a gentleman just last week had a problem. The Social Security Administration for 2 years refused to change his bank account to his new one, and we got that fixed for him in a day. If you're having a problem with a passport, if you're overseas traveling and you lose it, if you got a relative overseas and you need to go visit them, you need it expedited, would you please call me? Call me first. Don't call the embassy. Call me. We'll get that fixed for you. Problem with the IRS. You're not getting your tax refund, you need to know what you owe, why you owe it, you need to get put on a payment plan, call me, we can help you with that. In fact, let me challenge you on this, because sometimes it can be hard to understand what's a federal problem, what's a state problem, what's a county problem, what's a city problem. If you don't know who to call when you're having a problem, call me. And even if I have to tell you, I'm not the right person, you need to call your county supervisor. Not only will I tell you who to call, I will call with you, I will hand you off, and then my staff will call a couple weeks later and make sure your case got resolved. But I would prefer, if you don't know who to call me first, because that's my job and I take that very seriously. So I want to thank you very much for the honor of serving in Congress. I'm going to stick around for a little bit. I want to be respectful of your time. If you've got a question that I didn't answer, please come up and ask me. Let me know what I can do to serve you, and thank you for the opportunity of representing you.
Well.